Well, welcome, friends. So, today is Sunday afternoon in Thailand, and for the past few weeks we have had guest speakers, but today I'm back in the saddle again, and uh, today I'll let us start off with a question that some people have asked. And this is actually going to be a repeat of things that I've said long deep in the past, but they probably are worthwhile saying again. And that is, we're going to be talking about psychology and psychotherapy. Now, the place actually to start with that is with Sigmund Freud, who is considered the papa or the grandfather of modern psychology. And really, what he was the father of was psychoanalysis, which is something that actually only medical doctors are supposed to do, and they're called psychiatrists. But there's some hidden interesting things about that word psychoanalysis. You see, Freud was not interested in a cure. He was not even interested in helping with symptoms. His goal, primarily stated and passed down through the generations, was strictly diagnostic, strictly analysis. In other words, we're not here to help you get fixed. We're not here to make you feel better. We're here to make money off of telling you what's wrong with you. And that's the history of psychotherapy. Now, there were several of Freud's students who took that to an extreme. Wilhelm Reich was probably the worst, and Maslow was another. Eric Berne was in it too, all in the sense of doing really excellent diagnosis without finding a cure. So, that is the history of psychotherapy. Well, you say, well, we have psychotherapy. Yes, that's actually kind of a new term. When I was involved with it, let us say deeply, it was called clinical psychology. And normally, what clinical psychology did was generally working with medical doctors and psychiatrists to deal with people who were, let us say, either subnormal or way worse than that. And so the actual diagnostic information started, uh, oh, let us say at least 130 years ago, that Freud was most active in the 1890s. And out of that came a lot of diagnosis, including things like schizophrenia and various personality disorders, psychopaths, sociopaths, all of these kind of diagnostic disorders, but there was never any cure in sight. By the time that I had was in college when I was studying music, I actually worked at South Carolina State Hospital as a psychiatric aide, doing things like learning things to do like drawing blood, giving injections, and dispensing medications and things like that. And also, the most important was housing people. Now, South Carolina has actually closed their South Carolina State Hospital and put it to use in other ways, as almost all of the states in the United States, because back then in the 1960s, all of these states were pouring huge amount of money into taking care of people. Now they don't put so much money in it. They just, because they couldn't cure these people anyway, they just wait until they get involved with the police, and then they're just put in prison. So about half of the cases in prison are actual smart criminals, not the very smart ones. The very smart ones get away with it, but smart criminals and then really, really stupid criminals, which would be the ones who would be housed in psychiatric institutes 60 years ago. So during those days, they had a number of psychiatric drugs, starting with femurtarbitol, and then thorazine, haldol, navaine, and others that were, let us say, byproducts of those, up to things like Depakote nowadays. Those drugs had no intention of curing or helping the systems of the ones who were receiving those drugs, those inpatients. Those drugs were given to make them manageable by the staff. In other words, they doped them up so that they'd behave themselves because they were basically drunk on medications. And one of the things that I have seen over the years, including when I was working with my mom at her long-term care facility, which had about half elderly and half psychiatric cases, is that the patients do not want to take these psychotropic drugs. They would rather be normal in their mind and crazy rather than pressed down, depressed, foggy, not able to operate at all. And so many of the people actually will pretend to take the meds and don't take them at all. So that's where the history of psychoanalysis and clinical psychology came from, with the idea of clinical psychology was being hoping that they would bring subnormal people up to normal. Gross failure. Never was quite able to do it. That those, especially medications, didn't help. And psychotherapy didn't help. In fact, during the 1960s, several studies were done about depression and other related illnesses, and that they controlled it in the sense of what medications would work, whether psychotherapy would work, or neither meds nor psychotherapy, but just exercise. And people would come out of their depressions and come out of anxiety disorders and other things more likely due to exercise alone. Well, neither the psychiatrist and their pull pushers nor the psychotherapist liked that study at all. And so it didn't go anywhere. I mean, it was putting them out of a job. So that's the history. Now, more recently, there has been systems of study and PhDs available in a thing called counseling psychology, which was also in that same method. In fact, the professors at the universities who were teaching clinical psychology were the same ones who started teaching counseling psychology, just newer students. And there, the idea is to get people to be a bit better off. This is where actual symptomatology changes became possible. Hang on a second. Mikey, are you saying there's something wrong with the microphone? Can anybody hear me okay?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah. I wrote that Mikey's mic was giving a bit of echo. Okay.
All right. So, continuing on with counseling psychology, one of them, a good story, is the situation with family therapy and family counseling. What they discovered there was that the family often had, or almost always had, a designated problem child. Sometimes it was the dad, but almost always it was a designated problem child. And so the psychotherapist would work with that one child. And sometimes the situation got so bad that the child was taken out of that family and put into some foster care or someplace else like that. And what they began to see is that when the problem child was out of the family for an extended period of time, guess what? Another child became the problem child. It's very similar to ancient history where they would have a scapegoat. The whole society or the whole town would say, oh, we've got problems in this town. We're not getting along with each other. There's graft and corruption and anger and frustrations and all of that. Let's get a goat and blame it on him and send them out. Okay, so this was actually what was happening in family therapy is that they would find a scapegoat. This is our problem. This kid, he's misbehaving all the time. And the family wouldn't recognize that they were setting that up and that they never really found a good cure for it. They would change the symptoms, like taking the child out of the family and other things like this. So this is the history of psychotherapy, and it continues today. Now they do things like psychological archaeology, which the story that I have is that the man who was, let us say, antisocial, he was angry, he was upset, and his family and friends finally got him into psychotherapy. And with the psychotherapists, they found out by doing a lot of work and asking questions and whatnot and going back into the past, they dug up that he was an angry asshole because his mother gave him a spanking when he was 2 or 3 or 4 years old. I haven't heard this story before. And so the psychotherapist was happy. They found the cause. The man was happy because they found the cause. Oh, it was my mama's fault. She's the one who made me angry. But neither the psychiatrist nor the guy figured out that the reason that his mommy gave him a spanking was because he was already an asshole. Got any laughter with that one? That's one of my favorite jokes about
You know I laughed at
it. And so there's still no cure. There's just psychological archaeology. In fact, Timo on the screen here has a story about his avatar that the avatar has someone who shit on his head. And so he goes around to his whole neighborhood looking for who put shit on his head. And the obvious Dhamma answer to that is clean your head. Don't try to find out who shit on you. Go clean it off. That's the real thing. That's one of the big problems with modern psychotherapy is that they don't do curative stuff. They only do diagnostic, and some occasionally they will do symptomatic changes. Just like the pharmaceutical industry is not interested in curing disease. They want you to continue using the medications long term. It's sort of like Kleenex. If someone had a cold and bought a box of Kleenexes and then never had a cold again, never bought any more Kleenexes, and that was widespread, Procter & Gamble would go out of business. They need to sell Kleenexes over and over and over again. They don't want people to be cured of the common cold. They want people to only get a bit of relief so that they'll continue to buy Kleenexes. So this is what Western medical science, medical science is better than the doctors, but because at least they're interested in the research of finding out what's wrong, but they never really come to the conclusion of finding out what the actual cure would be. So we could go to the same place with Christianity. That in the Middle Ages, Christianity had a system called the seven deadly sins, and that Christina said she was going to be on the call so that we can talk to her about this, and that she's not here. So what? Now, let me name the seven deadly sins because they're all actually quite interrelated. The first three would be greed, lust, and gluttony. All three of those have to do with sensual desire and wanting. So the Buddha covers those quite well. And then wrath is also mentioned, and that's covered with ill will. He's also got three others. One would be pride and envy, which we'll talk about quite a lot. And then the last one, number 7, is sloth. Now, within the system of the Buddha, sloth is actually mentioned, and I want to make sure that we're paying attention to that we can actually change it to a more modern word called laziness, because there's two kinds of laziness. One is the laziness of not doing what you are told to do or not wanting to do the things that other people have said are important for you to do. That's a type of laziness. That would be called wholesome laziness. And then there is an unwholesome laziness. And that unwholesome laziness is when it becomes a hindrance on the Buddha scale, and that is that our laziness or our sloth prevents us from practicing the Dhamma. A really clear example is somebody just recently wrote, I have not been practicing because I've been going through some stuff. Well, that rings a big red flag, a big bell ringing, that when people are going through stuff, there's two things. One is that they're not practicing right now because they're going through stuff. And number two, they're going through stuff because they weren't practicing. That's the sloth right there. That's the laziness. We don't practice. And then when we need to practice the most because we've gotten ourselves into stuff, then we still don't practice. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was quite famous for saying the best time to practice, in fact, is when you're ill, when you're sick, because you can either be sick and miserable or you can be sick and happy. Your choice. If you're practicing correctly, it doesn't matter if you're sick or not. What matters is that you can handle it happily. This is why we can put into it as an important point is the actual teachings of the Buddha is curative. It actually solves the problem. It doesn't just diagnose it, and it doesn't just work with the symptoms. It's an actual cure. And that cure is to stop looking for solutions on the outside. Solutions on the outside are always only symptomatic. In other words, you don't like your job, and so you change jobs and get a new job. Does that cure the problem? Absolutely not. Now you're going to be unhappy with the new job after you've gotten used to it, find out what it is. And so you get another job, and you're really happy with that new job for a while. And then you don't like that one. So having a bad job and getting rid of it and getting a new job is only working on the symptoms. It's not working on a cure. The cure is to stop work altogether for a moment and get your mind in a really happy condition and then go back to work happily, whether it's the same job or not. In fact, the job that you have is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you're the CEO of a corporation or you're a street sweeper or you're the janitor of that corporation. It doesn't matter what job you have. The only issue is, do you enjoy doing that job moment by moment? So, back to these 7 deadly sins. You can see, in fact, that the Buddha covered them, but one of the problems with the 7 deadly sins is not one of them covers the main issue. And the main issue is ignorance. Ignorance of how to practice. In fact, Christianity doesn't want you to become wise. They want you to remain ignorant. Because if you remain ignorant, then you will continue to use the church. You need Jesus to save you from your sins. The teaching of the Buddha is not that. The teaching of the Buddha is wake up and look at what you're doing and make some changes. That's why it's curative, not symptomatic cure. Is because it's actually a cure for the spiritual disease. So let's look at the twin combination of pride and envy. Now, in the Abhidhamma, and I think mentioning a little bit in the Visuddhimagga, there are 5 what they call arupa fetters that have been translated to English wrongly, not as formless fetters, but as kind of higher fetters. But the reality is that these fetters did not exist in the time of the Buddha. They were made up centuries later. And all of the higher fetters have to do with selfishness. And so the one that we're talking about is the Pali word is mana. And the word mana actually has the root in the ancient Pali of measure. That we go around measuring things. Now, it's okay to measure a house, but when you start measuring yourself against someone else, some other self, that's when the problem starts, is that we begin to think that somebody is better than me. In fact, we learned that when we were in diapers. Mommy and daddy are better than me. They change my diapers. They feed me. They order me around. And so we all start off with the victim's position, the one who is on the bottom. And then when we get to school, we begin to find that there are other kids who are in lower grades who are actually dumber, more lazy, more ugly than we are. And so we start to see ourselves better than others. And eventually, if we've gotten some psychotherapy under our belt, we begin to see, well, this guy's got that and this guy's got this. We're all kind of equal. Everybody's seen that issue of equality. They promote it. It's promoted by governments. Equality. Everybody's equal. Catherine, have you heard about that? Everybody's equal. Yeah, you've heard it. Ivan, you've heard it.
Yeah. People.
Yeah, how about you, Alex? Have you heard that?
Oh,
Freedom and
yeah.
equality. Yes, okay. Well, let me ask you this kind of question, okay? You've all heard about prize fighting. They go into a ring or a rink. I think it's a ring, they call it. But it's square. It's not round at all. Sometimes it's round, sometimes it's fenced. But the old prize fighting that I'm thinking about is that 2 boxers will get into there and go a number of rounds. And there's either going to be a clear winner, you win, or you lose. Or sometimes it's a draw. Sometimes they come to there's no particular winner here. Now, if it's a 14-round match, that means that they had to go all 14 rounds beating on each other, only to come up with neither one of you have won this match clearly. So That's something interesting. When you have this manna, when you go measuring, if you win, you still get beat up. And if you lose, you take a licking. But if you come out equal, that means that you have gotten the shit knocked out of you, and so has the other guy, and you have been pummeled almost to death. But there was still no clear win. Well, that's exactly what happens when we compare ourselves with others, no matter what kind of criteria. This is what an argument is about. In fact, an argument almost has never got a clear winner. The people just go round after round after round of arguing with each other, and both of them get wound up, pummeled, and nobody wins. This is why it would be considered not a higher fetter, but just ordinary ego. Ordinary ego is painful when we go around measuring ourselves to other people. We think that if we win, we've got a reason for pride. But even the old scriptures of the Bible knew that pride headeth for a fall. If you think that you're good, you're going to find somebody else is better at something that you're not as good at, even if it's boxing. So it's better then to not measure, to not compare ourselves one with another, because even if we win the match, we feel pain from it. That winning a match is dukkha. That in fact, with arguments, if you win an argument, guess what? You're going to have a whole bunch of more arguments with both with the guy who you beat and also all of his friends, one after another. So you're going to get pummeled if you win. It's better not to play the game. Stay out of the ring. Don't argue with folks. So, looking at it mathematically, we have either equal sign, greater sign, or less than sign in equations, but we also have things like equivalency. And what I would like to do is offer you a new mathematical equation or formula symbol, and that is the heart symbol. That A is not equal to B, A is not less than B, A is not greater than B, A is not equivalent to B, A just is in love with or likes B. Make friends, not competitors. This is the cure. The cure is to stop comparing ourselves to others altogether. And look how many of the world leaders compare themselves to one another. It's almost always nothing but a competition. In fact, that's what politics is all about. It's just being in competition to get your way. And so this is, I would recommend, is don't go into politics because it's going to be downright painful for you. And why? It's because you're comparing. You're looking for pride and you wind up with envy. Now, one of the things about envy, that in fact there's two words to use. One is envy and the other one is jealousy, but they're very closely related. The distinction between envy and jealousy is that the man, let's say that the man is married and he's got a wife, and then he's got a girlfriend. The girlfriend is envious of the wife, but the wife is jealous of the girlfriend. In other words, jealousy wants to keep what you've got, and envy is wanting something that you don't have. But see how closely related they are. So, envy and jealousy are all things that lead to wrath or anger. Then, in fact, almost all anger is based upon jealousy. He won that argument, and I'm envious of him winning the argument. Or he was a bully in the hall and he took my lunch money, and so I'm envious of him and his power, but also I'm angry at him. So if you stay away from bullies, if you stay away from triangle relationships, then you're going to be much better off because you don't get into that competition. That, in fact, is the hallmark of the mana, is that measuring is to measure so that we can compete. That my yardstick is better than yours, or my yardstick is longer than yours, or whatever. And the thing of it is that we always, when we go into a competition, we've already got it planned out in advance of whether we're going to win or lose. Isn't that an interesting statement? We've already got it mapped out subconsciously, psychologically. We already know whether we're going to win or lose. Why? Because all of the competition is within one's own mind. You think that they're playing the same game. The boxers are playing the same game. They're not playing the same game. One of us is throwing upper punches. The other one is throwing lower punches. They don't play the same game. The same is true in any conflict, is that everybody's playing a different game. And the game that you're playing is a game that you chose. You're the one who chooses the criteria. If I feel envious of him, of her, because she's got the man I want, isn't it easy just to not want him anymore? And then there's no envy. She can have the dude. Don't measure yourself against other people. This is an important point. This is actually what's curative about the Dhamma, is that we stop comparing ourselves to other people. We stop competing with other people. We stop arguing with other people. And guess what? That's more than about 90 to 95% of all human interaction. Eric Berne was the one who stated that when he's talking about the games people play. Because the games that people play are the games that they made up. Sometimes they play the same game. They made the game up in high school or even in before they started school, and they keep playing that same game over and over and over again, not recognizing that the game always winds up in dissatisfaction. And so if we stop doing that measurement, stop comparing ourselves to other people, what have we got left? The answer is friendship. We can all just be friends together. Let's not compare one person to another. Let's leave each person unique. And then you say, well, wait a minute, what about compassion? I mean, that dude's really messed up. Isn't the one who is incompassionate, isn't he making a criteria and comparing himself to the one he's calling messed up? Think about that. If you want to have compassion for all of those people who are needy, guess where the needy is? Well, guess, in fact, where the all is. The all is already in your mind. And so if we stop comparing ourselves to other people, compassion kind of gets thrown out the window, just like much of all of our interactions with people. Because having compassion for someone is being one up or one down, comparing ourselves to others. Let's leave people as they are, and what they are is what they've chosen. Then, in fact, a lot of us don't even want to get fixed. How dare you, Ivan, trying to fix me?
I was bored, so I want to fix people.
Yeah, and everybody can be tweaked. Why is everybody all can be tweaked? Why? Because there's always some tweaker out there who is trying to tweak the people who they're envious of. So if we can leave this to the point that there is no comparisons, then there is no room for pride. If there are no comparisons, there's no room for envy and jealousy. If there is no comparison, there's no room for one up, one down, fixing people who are broken, and any of that kind of stuff. And we can leave it as everybody is okay. Now, Eric Berne had the thing called the OK Corral. In fact, he wrote a book about it, and one of his students stole the book and published it in his own name. But everybody who knew about Eric Berne knew that he was the publisher, or he was the actual author of the book, I'm Okay, You're Okay. Now, in this book, he has the OK Corral, and we can use that OK Corral for many things. In the top left-hand corner, you have I'm okay, you're okay. And then in the top right-hand corner, I'm okay, but you're not okay. Now, that nice position, I'm okay, but you're not okay, is the position of the one who is arguing, the prize fighters, the medical doctors, the bullies, all kinds of people see themselves inherently okay, but somebody else is not okay. And then you have the wimps of the world, which see it in the lower left-hand quadrant of I'm not okay, but all of those people are okay. I'm the one who goes to the doctor, so I'm not okay, and I go to the doctor, he's okay. Or I'm the victim of the bully, and the bully's okay, but I'm not okay. And then we have the lower right hand, which is I'm not okay and you're not okay. And that is the position of two kinds of people. One is the psychiatric cases, the ones who were really dependent on others. They can't get anything right, and they resent anybody who tries to help them. That's one kind of person. The other one is us Dhamma dudes. We're the ones who stay in that I'm okay, but I'm not okay. And everybody else is not okay too. The world sucks. The world is a toilet full of shit and all of that kind of stuff. And that where we need to actually be is coming out of that. And this is how we practice, is coming out of that position of the world sucks and I do too. Seeing our own defilements as reprehensible, no good, I'm a bad boy. And for instance, we're saying, okay, I'm going to gladden the mind, and I'm thinking about happy thoughts, and all of a sudden I'm having unwholesome thoughts. Well, what do we do with that? Oh, that's terrible. I had an unwholesome thought. Oh, poor me, I'm no good. And those other people out there, they have unwholesome thoughts too, so they're not okay. And so we wind up being in that state of I'm not okay, and the world is not okay. But correct practice is when we see a defilement, we can say, hot dog, I see that, and come back into that I'm okay. And then everybody else is okay too. I'm okay, you're okay, no comparisons, no equalities, just everybody's all right. No problems at all. This is the way to start seeing the world. Don't go around asking who shit on your head, just clean your head. Then you don't have to find out who did it. No need for any psychological archaeology. Everybody's already okay. So this is the actual practice. Now, one of the features, Ivan, of the practice is to take everything lightly. Nothing is actually important. When two people are arguing, do you think that either one of them are arguing a trivial point? Oh, no, they always want to argue an important point. Always really important. The atheists say there is no God. God does not exist. And the Christians argue a really important point. Oh, God does exist. And guess what? Neither one of them know for sure. Nobody knows for sure. Or maybe they're arguing rebirth after death. is a fact. Everybody's going to be reborn and reincarnated. And the other guy says, no, they're not. And they get into a great big huge argument. And guess what? Neither one of them know for sure. But isn't that true about almost every argument that you have, is that you're taking a premise, a belief, and arguing that belief as if it were important, and so is the other person? And the actual reality is that if you would stop and look and question the other person, neither one of you know for sure. But we're just in there measuring and measuring and measuring. So this issue of mana is actually quite an important point, because it determines most of our interactions with other people. So if we would stop interacting with other people in that comparative, measured way, my ideas are better than yours, and just be friends with one another, everybody's okay, then life would be actually quite pleasant. Life would be good if everybody was already okay. But isn't that just another mental attitude? That's all something that you made up. Why don't you make up something that's really happy and wholesome? Let's take things lightly, not important. And that's where the cure actually brings in humor. The Buddha was actually an excellent dry humorist. A really clear example, and almost everybody misses it, is the fire sermon, which is one of the third, I think it was the third sermon that he actually gave, and he gave it to these fire worshipers, and what he told them is all is burning. Well, you could see that he was making that point to get them to see that what they were doing was actually burning. It was not solving. By worshiping the fire, they were not actually feeling better. But can you actually see the humor in that? He was taking the mickey out of them. He could have said it in many different ways, but he said it exactly the way that kicked their ass. Everything is burning. Okay? And if you'll look subtly, you'll see that that's the case in a lot of the suttas. The problem with that is that many Western translators will take the humor out of it because they don't see the humor and put some important word in there instead. An example of that is using words like when you see your own defilement, or see the mind wandering away, we rebel against that. We think it's reprehensible. We think that it's not a good thing to do. And so we go into importance, we go into negativity, and we see that, for instance, in the Buddha talks about that sensual desire going to the outside to get our good benefit winds up being dangerous. And when we can see the danger, we can escape. And then that word danger, instead of saying it lightheartedly, they'll use the word remorse or rebellion or unappropriate, make it into a nightmare. But if we keep it light, we can say something like, aha, I see you. Or we can say, oh, that was a yucky thought. Or, ooh, I see that. Ooh, oh, that's an ooey. That's a yucky thought. That keeps it light. So let's start using the lightness. Another point that's important around that is that some of the monks, in fact, one of them in particular, was famous for saying everything in verse. Now, the Pali language is actually, like Latin, very easy to find rhymes. because most of the words end in O or A or I. And so it's very easy to rhyme. Every verb almost rhymes. And so all they need to do is put the meter into it, and that doesn't take long. And for that reason, we can say everything then is a poetry rather than heavy prose. So let's keep it light. Now, one point to make, Ivan, is that in a magazine, magazines have kind of died out, but 30 or 40 years ago, they were all the rage. Everybody had a bunch of magazines, and one of them was called Reader's Digest. And every month, Reader's Digest posted an article. And the name of the article was Laughter is the Best Medicine. And they were right. If you can take things lightly, if you can laugh easily, not raucously, the Buddha did say that when you're laughing, don't show your teeth. Don't raise your head and open your mouth widely and hee-haw, but rather just take things lightly, easily. Many people can actually read that Reader's Digest, Laughter is the Best Medicine, and smile all the way through the article, which is actually just joke after joke after joke. So this is what you can begin to do, is begin to see that your whole life is a joke. The reality is that your whole life is a joke. Only the problem is that when you make yourself the punchline and start punching on yourself. But when you stop punching on yourself, then you can just take everything as a cosmic joke. Everything is just, there's no meaning to it anywhere other than can you see the joy, the humor, the laughter. That's all there is to it. So that's the cure. The cure is to take everything lightly. The cure is to stop measuring to find out how important things are, and to stop measuring to find out whether you're better or less or equal to other people, and just be friends. So, Amrit, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, Dhammarato, this is definitely really great talk. Very, very happy to listen to it. And I would like to make a point. The point you're talking about the arguments. That arguments, whether you win or lose, you are ultimately losing. So I know this for a long, long time. And in the past, I would make a rule of not arguing, but I would break the rule and I would be upset about, so double upset, the argument part as well as breaking the rule. But now actually I learned this from you, that we should put the wisdom is coming first, and then is coming a samadhi, and then is coming the sila. And actually that makes it much easier for me, so I take it much lighter. If first of all my mind is in a samadhi mind, then it's also much easier not to argue. And even if I break the rule, it's kind of not a big deal. So I come easily out of it.
Okay. One point about that is that the Buddha didn't argue with people, but he had a skill that I'll mention to you now. And that is that when someone wants to take a position that this is true, then what the Buddha would do is he would start asking questions. And he would get him to agree on one question after another, until it came full circle to where now the man is agreeing with the Buddha against his own argument. And you'll see that in a number of suttas. So pay careful attention to some of these suttas. You can see that, in fact, the Buddha's playing with this guy. He's having fun by asking questions that the person cannot deny. An example, in fact, you hear this issue from time to time, even today. Oh, an arahat is going to have a flat affect. He's got no personality. He's deadpan. There's nothing there. And therefore, anybody who does have any life couldn't possibly be an arahat. Well, when the Buddha did that, he talked about it in several sessions, and one of them was about leprosy. If you were a leper and you did all the things that lepers do, scratch and pull the scabs off and pick off the worms, and even put your hand in the fire, because that was kind of pleasant, and then your friends got a doctor and gave you a cure, and you became cured of your leprosy, would you then go back and envy the leper, the new leper that you find who still has leprosy, and say, oh, I remember all about that? So would you like to become a leper again because you're envious and jealous of the leper, or are you going to be happily cured of that? So then we can go to the question of, if you are doing something to gain pleasure, but it winds up being dangerous, and you see the danger in it, and you stop doing that, would you then be jealous of the guy who is still doing that? Let's use an example of going to the brothel, and you stopped going to the brothel because you saw how dangerous it was. Would then you be envious of the guy who still goes to the brothel? And the guy's going to say, no, I wouldn't be envious of the guy who goes to the brothel if I have found the cure to going to the brothel. And then you find several other things, that you're no longer a glutton, you're no longer lustful, like going to the brothel, you're no longer prideful, and you're finished with all of these deadly sins. Would you then become envious of those people who still did all of that stuff? And the answer is no. Okay, so this is the way that the Buddha argued, was he found ways of convincing people that if they give up the dangerous stuff and they find an escape, they're not going to return back to the old stuff. And that's the way that you can convince people about the Dhamma, rather than arguing with them and trying to correct them. The better way to do it is the Socratic method of just asking questions. How does that fit, Amrit?
Yes, definitely. That fits very well, but that requires a lot of skill, definitely. But it's fun to develop those skills.
Mm-hmm. So you can also see in that discussion that I gave that the Buddha, by not arguing, doesn't take the issue seriously at all. He stays very lighthearted about it. And he asks only questions that he already knows the answer to. So, Garantha, what do you think about this?
Let's.
Hi, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Dhammarato. What do I think about this? It goes back to friendship. Every time you're talking about it, and seeing the other as someone you are a friend with, instead of arguing.
Yes. No need to argue. So, Oz, what do you think?
Great stuff, Dhammarato. Yeah, better not to step in the ring in the first place. You always end up covered in mud at the end, otherwise win or lose.
Right.
I like this point about about not in the past, we always hear that, oh, don't compare yourself to others because everyone's equal in the end or whatever, right? But you're still in the ring. Better just
You're
not to
still in
step in the
the
ring. Don't get in the ring. And with the arguments, I get looped into them sometimes, and then, I'm getting all stressed out about it, and then 10, 20 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't really care about this at all. What am I even defending here?
Yeah. Yeah, what do you do is not even important.
So the whole thing was pointless. So yeah, just remembering to pay attention and look and catch myself when I'm about to start arguing saved me a lot of trouble. Thank you,
Yes.
Dhammarato.
And in the case, trouble is defined as dukkha,
Right.
dissatisfaction.
Right.
So, Alex, my good friend, I'm so happy to see you up this early.
I'm happy to be here, Dhammarato. Thank you.
What do you have to say about this talk?
Not much. Very good talk. Very good reminder to put some pep in it and enjoy practice. It's a good pointer that if we're not enjoying the practice, we're likely not practicing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice to remember to do things with, gladness and ease and calmness, not get excited about stuff that we don't have to, not take it so heavy, take it real nice and easy.
Take it light and easy. All right, good one.
Light and easy.
Giannis, what do you think?
Hey, Dhammarato. I really like the talk. And especially when you brought up the quadrants of okay, not okay. That one, I feel it's very helpful. If I'm like talking with someone and I think they're not okay, then I might like want to get in an argument thinking, oh, I'm going to help them, like, oh, I need to help them. But if I see them as, oh, they are okay, even if they have this belief and whatever, like, it really helps to pacify the whole situation because like I'm not trying to save them, they're okay, they can figure it out and all of that.
All right. Good one. Timo, what do you have to say?
Pretty much the same thing. I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay. It's great.
Yeah. No comparison.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Right. We've all made it over the line. The fat ones, the short ones, the skinny ones, the dumb ones. Everybody's over the line. No problem. So how about you, Paul Matt? What do you think?
Oh, very good talk. We'll listen to the talk again. A lot of reminders and pointers to see how intertwined mana, conceit, or comparison is in various aspects. So we'll keep guard on it and remember to take it easy and light.
Good. And Mr. P, what do you have to say? Or maybe it's a miss.
Well, I think it's a good talk. I like the concepts and ideas of be calm and everyone it's okay. But even though it's hard to think that some ideas like the doctors don't really want to cure people, or that some people that I think are not okay. How do I that they are okay, but I don't know how to manage all that.
Okay. Not sure. Can you say more about that?
What?
I'm not sure what you're saying. Can you continue on? Tell me more.
Yeah, yes. I like the ideas. I think that mostly they make sense for me, but it's really hard to think that everyone it's okay. Well, how can I put this concept on practice? Can you explain a little bit more?
All right. You start with you're okay. And
Yes.
part of your okayness is stop looking at other people as not okay.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a 1-2 punch.
Okay.
Those people out there is not your business. You're okay. So it needs to be practiced over and over and over again, because there's one thing for sure, and that is the first wholesome thought is going to be followed by another unwholesome thought and another unwholesome thought. That's the mind. You're in the habit. So we have to practice over and over and over again to come out of our not okay into I'm okay. Everything is fine. Not a problem in the world. We gladden the mind. We brighten the mind. Everything is just fine. Wow, what a relief. Everything is already okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
keep practicing that.
I
And
will.
then when you have the thought somebody out there is not okay, you can say, aha, I see that. That's another unwholesome thought.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So, Krishna, how's your group? What's happening, man?
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear
now
you.
I hear you.
Yeah,
Now I hear you.
Wrong microphone. Good. Is now that better?
Hello, Mr. Bear. I'll bear with you. Bear with you.
Ah, okay. I guess I'll just speak to that microphone. Some people would have issues with the concept of not a problem in the world, and I'm wondering how would you explain that?
Well, the only problems that are the problems that you have manufactured in your world. The only problems that you'll ever find are the problems you made up. Let me use the example of that you're driving along and the cop throws on a red and a blue light flashing. And so you pull over. Is that a problem?
It's not a problem.
Not a problem.
Happened.
And if you're happy and joyful and cooperative with the policeman, is it going to continue to be a problem? No.
Nope.
How about if you don't like that he stopped you and that you're in a hurry and you've got excuses? Are you creating a problem now?
Not a problem at that moment.
Yeah. So if you recognize that all the problems you've ever had, you made them up.
Guess the difference is in the concept of what the world is.
The only world there is the world inside your mind, because that's the only one you care about, is your reaction to the world.
They can't hear you. I wonder if I can fix that though. I should be going.
Takes practice, doesn't it? You have to keep remembering, oh, I made that shit up.
Okay, I guess I'll ask for Satan. Because issues with audio. His question is, what if you get hurt and you need to get healed? Like,
all right.
I don't know, maybe you need to go to the hospital.
You got hurt and you got healed. But if you get hurt and you say, oh, poor me, oh, I hurt so much, is that a problem? Yeah, we're
and
manufacturing
it
the problem.
becomes
We
a
got
problem.
hurt and we don't like it.
Hmm. And
My
when
favorite
you're
example right
hurt,
now. Go ahead. I'm listening.
when you're hurt before you go to the hospital, is that a problem?
Well, you might not go to the hospital. In fact, a lot of people go to the hospital because they think there's a problem, and when they get to the hospital, now the waiting room becomes a problem. And then you see a doctor who wants to take X-rays, and then it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Now you've got a hospital bill which you probably don't like, and so the hospital bill becomes a problem. All because you hurt and you wanted the doctors at the hospital to fix you instead of being okay that you got hurt. I'll give you my favorite, for the moment, example. What if someone who is wheelchair bound falls over backward and crashes his back and crashes his head on the floor and has trouble getting up? What is he going to do?
Ask for help? Yes.
Okay. What else is he going to do? Laugh. He's going to enjoy it. Yeah, he got hurt. So what? It's a big joke. In other words, don't create a problem. But if you got some family, you can get them to help you. And guess what? They probably can't help you anyway. And so you got to roll over and get up on your knees and then get back into the wheelchair, laughing all the way. It never was a problem. Mikey, will you verify that that's the situation? He was there. He was one of the helpers that couldn't get my fat ass off the floor.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Dhammarato too heavy to pick up, but we tried anyway, and he's okay.
Say what?
You're okay.
Yeah, am I?
Oh, I'm not sure. At least as far as we can tell.
That's right, not sure. All right, so you guys think about this, because this is foreign information for you, that you create your own problems. Once you begin to see those problems directly, you'll begin to see that you created them. And if you start living a life where you're laughing all the way, you're not creating any problems. And live a problem-free life, including falling on your ass. Then, in fact, someday you're going to die. My intention is I'm going to die laughing. But not yet. I'll wait. I'm not in a hurry. It's not important. Okay, Mikey, why don't you take this thing home?
Happily. Yeah, thanks, friends, for being here today. We'd like to shout out Dhammarato.com. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. We have something like 1,600 transcripts now of these Sangha calls, as well as one-on-one calls that Dhammarato has done with students and friends. So you can go read those transcripts. You can also go search for keywords. Say maybe there's a question you have. Type it into the search, and you'll find a few talks regarding your question, or just something you'd like to listen to. So yeah, also check out opensangafoundation.org. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, go ahead and check out the video description where you can join us here on the Dhamma Friends Discord. We welcome you guys to hang out here, keep making friends, keep posting, share things regarding the practice, share photos you'd like, and anything. We're all just here making friends and having a nice time. So yeah, you guys are welcome to stay here and chat and just keep hanging out. Remember to take care, take it easy, and of
Soil.
course, don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy. If you catch yourself worrying, call me. I make you happy. That's in the song, by the way. All right, so I'm going to go now. I'm going to crawl back into the bed and feel happy for myself. And so I would invite each one of you to stay online and enjoy each other's company. Make some new friends. We got really excellent friends here. You can ask them questions and get verification for what we've talked about today. Alex, stay online. You're really a good friend.
Oh, I will. I'll be here to hang out with all of our friends.
All right. You too, Ivan. So we'll see you all. Thank you so much. This has been such
Thank
a
you,
delightful
Dhammarato.
talk. I've enjoyed this one.
Thanks very much,
Thank you,
Dhammarato.
Dhammarato. Enjoy rest.
I really appreciate
Thank
you
you,
guys
Dhammarato.
listening to me take the mickey out of psychology. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.